Are you ready to take action to attain the lifestyle of your dreams?
It's a great way to make a lot of money fast.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Clever Investor Show. I'm your lucky host, Cody Sperber, the original Clever Investor. We're really lucky today. I got a friend of mine named Eric Spofford. If you've never heard of Eric, you're going to want to definitely make sure that you listen to this entire show. Follow this guy on social media because he's not only a phenomenal entrepreneur and a very interesting human being, but he's actually making a massive impact in the world with the way he starts, scales, and runs his companies, his businesses. I'm going to unpack everything throughout this show, but I've had the honor and privilege to get to know him over the last year, and we're here in Miami. We're in Eric's house right now. The guy is super successful. He actually exited his business for $115 million, which doesn't suck, and he's parlayed that into a massive real estate empire. And yeah, the guy's just phenomenal at business. So Eric, welcome to the Clever Investor Show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited that
you're
you're
Miami.
here. Oh, we're going to bring the heat today, baby.
Let's
This
bring
show's all about making money, having fun, making your money matter, and just being real and raw for entrepreneurs and
Living the good
investors
life.
to freaking know what to look out for. We talk L's, we talk W's,
God.
we tell war stories,
Yeah,
and you've got a few.
I got a few.
So
got a bunch.
originally from New Hampshire,
Originally from southern New Hampshire, grew up about 45 minutes north of Boston.
okay?
Yeah.
And you got the Boston accent.
Boston accent, grew up kind of in that culture, yeah.
What does that? What does that mean? You look like you were a Boston gangster.
I tried for a long time. I'll leave it at that. I tried for a long time. I mean, but that whole New England Northeast thing is different. You know what I mean? It's very cultured. There's the way that I grew up, you know, surrounded by a criminal element. I grew up surrounded by drugs, drug dealing. I was an entrepreneur since my earliest memories. I started selling weed in the 5th grade. I was 10 years old. Got my first drug sales charge in 5th grade. Still hold the state's record. I don't know whether I should be fucking proud of that or not. You know?
You're like, Mom, I failed class miserably, but I got the certificate saying I'm the youngest drug dealer in state history.
And so, you know, it was an interesting way to grow up. I didn't realize how interesting it was until I started getting out and moving around the world and being a little more cultured. You know, it's a crazy story. It was weed and booze at 10, 11, 12. It was ecstasy, ketamine, party drugs, coke at 13, 14. It was Oxycontin 14. Which led to heroin by the time I was 15 and really kicked off when I was 16. And from like 15-ish years old till almost 22, I was a stone cold junkie, criminal, wanted to be a gangster and, you know, was for a little while, I guess. Ended up 5 overdoses, stabbed a couple times, shot at, head split open with a crowbar. You know, half a dozen car accidents I probably shouldn't have walked away from, life support, breaking my family's hearts, destroyed my life, and got sober December 7th of 2006, 135 pounds, not a friend in the world, not a single person that'd pick up my phone call if I called willingly, had to trick them, *67. On the run for an armed robbery, a drug deal gone bad that I brought a knife to. I went to a drug deal and without any drugs, with a knife instead, and left with all the money. And so I got in trouble for that. And had a couple changes of clothes that I carried around in a garbage bag, in a trash bag. And that's how I started almost 16 years ago. That's a lot to unpack.
Wow. I mean,
we'll start there.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean that's quite a place to start. So, what's your family like? Like, are you just a wild child by heart, or is this like a dysfunctional environment that you're growing up in?
Dude, I definitely took it 1,000x what my family was. You know what I mean? Like my parents were, you know, they probably drank and smoked a little weed, and you know, my father was a logger, so kind of a roughneck, and blue collar. They fought a lot when I was a kid. They got divorced when I was in 5th grade. I lived, you know, between the both of them for 2 years. Then I became kind of estranged with my mom, and my dad ended up raising me alone. And so, you know, it's not like I was raised by junkies at all. I just went hard myself.
Yeah, you did.
took it to the next
Thankfully, you
level.
didn't die. You know, when I hear you
More
say that,
than-
you say it like it's like rolling off your tongue. It's like all nonchalant.
I've just told
but
the story
from,
so
from
many
fifth
times,
grade,
you
you're
know?
such a young child to,
Yeah.
and you're surviving. You do have an entrepreneurial spirit, obviously, because you're
Yeah, man.
flipping drugs and doing that. But so what was rock bottom? Was rock bottom? You know,
Rock
when
bottom,
I have
yeah.
some friends that are recovering. You know, they're now sober.
Yeah.
And their stories are always like there was always one moment where they were just there. And it was just so bad and so painful. One of my business partners was sitting on the floor of the jail,
Yeah.
you know, and he couldn't even find a seat. They wouldn't even give him a seat. He had to sit in the middle of the cell, you know,
Yep.
just
I
strung out.
think for me it was a build up over years, right? Like I started trying to get sober and change my life at 17, and I had, did 100 or more tried and failed attempts, and then when that drug deal went bad, I it sounds a lot more gangster than it actually was, dude. The kid that was on the other end of that situation, I robbed him for $82 with a butcher knife.
Wow.
And I used the $82 and I bought 4 $20 bags of heroin. And by the time I got the dope and went back to the trap house I was staying at, and I was mixing it to shoot the 4 bags, the entire neighborhood was locked down with police. And I knew they were looking for me because he had turned me in. You know, he told them I took the money. He didn't tell them that it was a drug deal, of course. And I remember sitting and I hid in a closet all night long. And waiting for him to come through the front door. And they never...
But you were doing drugs in a closet, waiting for them to come get you, or you didn't actually do the drugs?
Oh no, I got high on the 4 bags of heroin.
Yeah.
And then I hid in the closet the whole night. And the whole night I'm sitting there going, I'm fucked. I'm going to prison forever for this. And I just had this moment of clarity that I was like, if I don't take this opportunity right now, I'm dead or I'm in prison. And I've been so close so many times, dude. I mean, 5 overdoses, waking up on ventilators, in the hospital, you coded,
Yeah.
I mean, dude, so many crazy situations. It's wild. And so that was that moment for me. And that was the night between December 6th and December 7th. And the next morning, I took off. I was in the state of Maine. I was in Portland, Maine, and I went back to my home state of New Hampshire. And on the run, you know, like I said, with a couple changes of clothes and nothing, totally homeless. And I just started building from there.
No, I mean, I
You
find,
said bring it raw, brother.
I find this fascinating
Yeah, no
because,
doubt.
you know, some of my favorite people have had the roughest
Yeah.
past. You know, I don't trust a man that doesn't have a dark past, you know, because the people that really get there right to the frickin' edge and they're in so much pain, internal pain, external
Yeah.
pain, they're hurting people around them. And they finally get there where they're at that breaking moment where
Yeah.
they do draw that line and they say enough is enough. Those ones that come out of that and like you become, and I can't wait to tell the other side of the story.
Totally.
The impact and the success and the just the way you roll through life and that you got there because you were there.
Yeah.
You know, and so when I say wow, like it's me internalizing just that feeling of I'm proud of you.
Appreciate it.
It's hard to go through what you did. But now you're there, and so are you going to rehab? Like, are you checking yourself into a facility?
Dude, I had been to rehab so many times at that point, and like rehab and jail, and you know, and I've kicked a dope habit. I didn't have insurance. I didn't have any money. The state-funded place had a 2-month-long waiting list, and I had to get clean and sober like now. Like I didn't have another day of getting high in me, and so no, I didn't. I called and got on the waiting list for the state-funded, you know, shithole treatment center, and I called every day to do a bed check and be on the waiting list. and I started kicking a dope habit, and I went into withdrawals. My mom, who I'd been estranged from, let me stay on her couch. She had basic cable, and I just literally stayed on the couch and rocked and rolled, dude. Puke, piss, shitted, didn't sleep for a month. After a couple days, I was like, I gotta get back to recovery meetings. I need to go to where the people that can help me are. And I mustered up the energy, and I walked down to a 12-step meeting and walked in, raised my hand, and told them who I was and what I was up against. And God's great, man. You know, for me, it's really, it was a God thing. Like, I can't tell the story any other way. And God uses what God has available, and he's got a sense of humor. And so, you know, to separate me and push me towards what he needed me to be doing with my life, he used an entire police department in a crazy situation. That's how I see it now. And when I got to where I was going through that situation, he placed some amazing men in my life. And I was blessed that these guys, I was 21, almost 22 years old when I started, and I was surrounded by these guys that gave literally not a single fuck about how I felt, but they cared about my life enough to tell me the truth despite making me upset, holding me accountable to what I needed to be doing despite what I wanted to do, look at me right in my face and be like, yo, you're full of shit. Shut the fuck up. Sit down. Go make the coffee and shut the fuck up. That guy's new. You've been here for 45 days. Go talk to him. Stop telling us about your fucking problems. Everybody's got problems. Go help that guy. That guy just got here. And that's what I came up in. And for me, like, the path to success, it's, you know, it's so broad, but it really started with this internal transformation. And I'm grateful for heroin addiction, and I'm grateful for the pain, and I'm grateful for the trauma, because dude, I'm a strong-willed cat. If I didn't have all of that, it wouldn't have broken me down to the point where I was willing to surrender, and the surrender was the prerequisite to a transformational experience. And that's what happened to me in early sobriety. And so I talk so freely about, yeah, I used to rob people. Yeah, I sold drugs. Yeah, I was a piece of shit. Yeah, you know what I mean? I did all these things. Because really, in that transformational process, how it feels and what I believe is true is that I died the death of self. I had to give up that life and that guy to become somebody new. And so it's like, that's not me. It hasn't been me in a very long time. You know?
That's a powerful way to look at it.
Totally.
So it's like the butterfly coming out of the cocoon. You know,
Totally
it's like a whole
changed.
new transformation.
Totally different.
Yeah.
You know? And that's what that process was for me. Like, I didn't step in. This is what's interesting, is I didn't step into sobriety and start chasing the bag and chasing the cars and the houses and the this and the that. I started chasing change and spirituality and all these things that I was being taught. I mean, I was spending more time in prayer and meditation and step work and helping other people and service and going under the bridge and recruiting active addicts and helping them get sober, and you know what I mean, and holding their hand and going into the forest and, you know, grabbing a guy just like me and walking him out and getting him to safety and going back in and doing it again and chopping wood and carrying water. And out of that became this idea of, I really want to do this professionally. But I'm a fucking 10th grade dropout without a GED and a criminal record. And I'm not a licensed therapist, I'm not a doctor, you know what I mean? How do I do that? And so that's where, moving on to the next phase of the story, I got this idea that I want to start a sober house, which at the time, bro, this was 2008. Like, everyone knows what a sober house is now. Nobody knew what a sober house was in 2008 in the state of New Hampshire. There wasn't one that existed. And so I was working construction, working with my old man, logging, doing tree removal, and I started picking up side jobs, and I started going to like the rental store and getting the lights and, you know, renting those and saving money. And my dad lent me a little bit of dough, and he helped out, and then like this dude from recovery donated a bunch of furniture, and everything came together. And long story short, we ended up buying, me and my dad, a 3-family home in 2008, October 2008, when the world was melting, for $150,000. It was bank owned, foreclosed. And I moved in there in October of 2008 and lived in that house with 11 men for the next 2 years.
Wow.
And it was me and 11 guys, and they would come and they would pay me to stay there. And I lived with them, I ate with them, I taught them, we woke up together. I'd literally walk you right in the room, grab you by your ankle and be like, wake up, come on, it's time, morning disciplines, let's go. And we would go through all of that together and did service work, did recovery together, like a family environment. Guys came and guys left. And I just had this passion for helping people. And that was the business that eventually was placed in the position of the opioid epidemic, the addiction crisis blowing up, and New Hampshire and northern New England being like one of the worst areas in the country for it. And so as that spiraled out of control, my little business ended up blowing up into the largest provider of those services, addiction treatment services, inpatient, outpatient, housing, in all of New England.
And for anybody listening, the company that Eric eventually exited from for $115 million, which is just a staggering amount of money, started from that little house.
Yeah.
And you started, and what I love about this, besides just the fact that you owned it, you lived it, you were there with those people, and you were leading with service, there was a real estate undertone to it because it started with the house.
Yeah.
And here you are. It's like I bought a distressed asset. I figured out how to buy it. I figured out how to furnish it. I used it to house hack. I lived in it. I got other people in there, and now you created this little sober living environment. And then now the world is, you said there's an opioid epidemic going on in your area, and you're starting to see, wow, like there's a lot of people that need help out there. So are you immediately like, I can turn this into a business? Is it happening by accident? You see what I'm saying? Is it like, well, maybe I'll just do one more of these, and then all of a sudden it's like, I'll do 2 more of these? Or are you starting to see a path now of like, wow, I can actually turn this into a real empire?
It happened gradually over time. It was really a labor of love, right? Like I was living there with those guys and they were paying me every month to stay there. But I was still working construction for a few years, and I was still getting up every morning, putting my work boots on and going and getting it done. And then I had so many people that wanted to live there in a limited amount of space. I was like, well, I'll open a second one and I'll have a house manager to oversee it. And then that turned into one thing, and then eventually kind of light bulb went on. It was like, I want to be the biggest and I want to be the best.
And a house might be too small? Or are you like, hey, I'm just going to do a ton of these houses? Or are you immediately thinking, I need a bigger place?
Bigger place, but you have to kind of understand the industry. I wanted to do full scale every service that's provided. And so medical detox, a licensed healthcare facility, physicians, nurses, therapists, billing insurance, like just a full, and so by the end we had 15 operating entities, 440 treatment beds, 325 employees was the size of the company.
Say that again?
440 treatment beds,
Yep.
spread across 15 companies that all were under this one umbrella business called Granite Recovery Centers. And so we had 15 different little operating entities, some big, some small, some medium. And the team that operated the business was 325 employees, was the head count.
Wow.
Around the, leading up to and at the time of my exit.
Okay. So now you got this vision. You're pulling all these pieces together, and you're like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Are you burning the boats on the logging business? Are you like, I'm not going to do construction. I'm going all in on this.
Well, dude, mind you, the logging business was my dad's business, and I'm his only child. And my entire life, he raised me. He was like, when you get older and take over this company, and so I had a lot of pressure on me to be third, kind of fourth generation doing this work. And several years in, when I really felt like I wanted to go full time with building this business, I had to go have a conversation with my dad, which was very difficult, which was like, hey, listen, this was your life. and I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for all the hard work that you put out to provide for me. I mean, the man put work boots on every day of his life and got up and went out there and got it done. And it's hard work. But I want to do something different. And it was very difficult, you know, but he supported me. And, you know, it was something he was a part of, and he was proud of me. And so I made the transition then, which was probably about 2010. Yeah.
I can imagine that being a tough conversation. You feel like you're letting somebody down that's really
Totally.
been there and stepped up. And all right, so let's talk real estate a little bit, right? So, you know, what we've had conversations, obviously, about, you know, just like the power of the real estate portfolio, because you actually had 2 exits.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, when you have a business, right, and I really believe the whole purpose of starting companies and scaling companies is to own real estate. Like, if you are starting a business and you don't own the real estate that business operates in, you're missing a big opportunity there.
Huge.
And so for you, you have holding companies that went off and found and bought these facilities or properties, renovated them maybe, got them all working and ready, and then your drug treatment facilities would rent.
Correct.
From them.
I was essentially building 2 businesses. I was building the operating company that was the tenant of the real estate, that provided the services, that had all the employees and all of that. Mm-hmm. And then I had a real estate holding company that I was building alongside as the landlord and the real estate developer for the operating business. And you're spot on. I mean, if you're in business that is a brick and mortar type of situation of any kind, if you're not looking to own that real estate and develop that real estate, you're missing a huge opportunity. You know, really cool real estate story. And this is just the power of real estate. And I don't know where else this would happen, but I'm sitting around in 2011. I want to open a new facility. I'm out making some noise, looking around New Hampshire for real estate and property. This real estate agent finds me and says, "Hey, I have something you might be interested in." It's a former small private school in a town called Canterbury, New Hampshire, in the middle of nowhere. I go and look at it. The guy wants like 1.2 million. I said, "Hey, that's real nice. I got 200 grand. That's all I got." He says, "Get the fuck off my property." This is in the summer. December, same real estate agent calls me and says, "Hey, this thing's now being foreclosed upon by the bank. It's got a $1.2 million mortgage on it. They're bringing it to an absolute auction. Auctions in January." I go there with my dad. I bring him with me. And I go to this real estate auction for this property that is mortgaged, I forget what bank, for $1.2 million. It's like 17 acres, this beautiful campus, would be a perfect addiction treatment facility, right? And I sign up to bid, first auction ever, you know, steep terms, you're gonna close within 30 days. I know, like, I don't even think I have a shot in hell. Mm-hmm. I got 200 grand, that's what I got. Like, this thing goes to 205, I'm out. And one other guy registers the bid, and auction kicks off. The guy starts, you know, doing the auctioneer thing, and blah, 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 blah. Me and this guy are in a gridlock staring at each other. Finally, the guy stops and says, "Wait, can one of you just start us off with an offer?" I raised my paddle. I said, 100 grand. Stare at the other guy, you know? And long story short, I walked out of that auction and bought that property for $100,000 that day. The bank stopped the countdown, said, whoa, 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 whoa. Before we let this thing go for 100 grand, we gotta make a call. I'm sure they called the head honcho, walked outside, made the call, came back in, looked at the auctioneer, went, "Go." And said, looked at the other guy, said, "Do you have a bid?" The guy said, "Nope." And I got the property for $100,000.
Wait, what?
I swear to God.
Nobody bid against you?
This guy looked at me and just said, you know, he's out. And
dude, that was God moving.
Dude, 100.
Pieces
you know what's great?
away,
you know what's
around for you.
Dude, you know what's crazy is I had like, you know, a paddle that had a number on it, and dude, I got sober in 12-step recovery, and in that, the literature of the program of recovery is 164 pages. And so you'll hear it all the time. You'll be like, oh, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the program of recovery as described in the first 164 pages. I got outside to like call back to the team and let them know, like, yo, we just bought a treatment center. And I looked down at my hand and the fucking paddle number's 164. And I was like, God, you're funny, huh? And I like knew my mission. I was like, all right, bet. Like, I know what we're doing. Fast forward though, I put a little bit of money into the place. I get zoning approval. I took the risk and bought it without zoning approval because I'm at an auction and you don't have the time for that. I fought my way through the municipality over several years to get approval. I went in, created an operating company, ran the operating company for several years, so created a credit rating of revenue and audited books and proof of concept of the tenant. And then in 2015, I wanted to buy this mega campus, which is really the thing that put the business on the map. It was huge. It's 80 acres, almost 100 beds.
So you were onto something now. You knew, hey, if I can buy these like old schools or old campuses and turn them into these facilities, that's a better path than, converting like just a big commercial building into a bunch of beds.
It was finding the right oddball real estate for my use, for sure. Dude, I find this campus for $10 million. That's what I got the guy down to. I'm like, dude, the bank's gonna give me 75%. I gotta come up with $2.5 million. I don't have $2.5 million at the time. And I went, and this is when I started to figure out, I was like, this was a major light bulb for me because I owned that thing and I was close with the banker that gave me the loan for that and then was gonna give me the loan for this. And he said, Eric, well, you own that thing over there. Why don't we get it appraised? And I was like, why the fuck are we gonna do that? Like, I had no clue. I learned this all as I went, and we got it appraised, and the property appraised for like $5.2 million. And I had all this equity, and I was like, oh, fuck. And so I recapped that property and used the equity as the down payment to purchase the next one. And yeah, crazy.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, crazy. And so the property that I bought.
It's sad that we don't teach these things in school. Just
Dude,
basic real estate fundamentals.
Because where else are you going to do that? Yeah, and so the property that I bought for the $10 million, I sold, I don't know, 2.5 months ago for $15 million as part of a package that I sold to a publicly traded REIT recently. It's crazy. The one that I put the note on that I'm telling you about, the one I got at the auction, I just sold. I think we sold that one for $4 million, but still, nonetheless.
It's amazing.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Nuts.
So you're building this empire.
Yep.
Right? Are you building it to exit, or are you just building it to build it, and one foot in front of the other? It's like, hey, let's do another one. Let's do another one. Let's do another one.
I'm building it because I'm on the front lines of the addiction thing. It's getting worse. I'm watching people die at scale. Fentanyl shows up in like 2012, 2013, overdose, death spikes. By 2014-15, it becomes the leading #1 accidental killer in America. You're statistically more likely to die as an 18 to 55-year-old adult of an opioid overdose than a car accident. And that transition happened at the height of my career in building this. My friends all die. Every kid I ever got high with and ran the streets with, one by one fucking died. Every one of their mothers cried on my shoulder. And, I watched their children grow up without parents, and it was just a mission. And so I was not thinking, I didn't even know, dude, again, blind, dumb luck. I'm a 10th grade dropout. I didn't even know you could sell a business. I'm sure you could, but it just wasn't something I was thinking about at the time as I was building. It was a labor of love. It was a mission. I felt like I was on the front lines of a really important crisis that was affecting a lot of people.
So many of our listeners reach out and they ask us how they can get involved in my actual real estate deals. We got a lot going on here right now, from developing and owning multifamily to developing new subdivisions to assisted living facilities, storage facilities, mobile home parks. Our investment firm specializes in finding deeply discounted properties, acquiring them, sometimes knocking them down and building from the ground up, renovating, stabilizing both single family and multifamily properties all over the United States. That's why we're so excited to share with you clevercapitalfund.com. Now, if you have some investment capital, lazy money laying around, and you want to deploy it and receive double-digit returns backed by real estate, then visit our website and see which fund is right for you. We have both equity funds where you can participate in the upside, and we have like debt funds where you just get paid out every month like clockwork. All you got to do is visit www.clevercapitalfund.com today to learn more.
So scaling to 300 plus employees is no easy feat. Like, is this something that, because like for me, I didn't know what I was doing. I got lucky enough to scale to a little over 100 team members at one of my companies, and it really was one or two key hires that helped me do all the rest. Was that the same for you? Like, because it seems overwhelming. Like, how in the heck am I going to grow and scale a business? It's really just a couple key people and a couple key seats.
I learned it all as I went. I mean, as we were exploding in growth, at one point, I was like running myself ragged. Just all I was doing, I had like 17 direct reports. Every department answered to me, like all of them. I had my hands in absolutely everything. And it was probably 2017 that I divested into a couple different things. The growth had happened, and now I needed to learn about creating systems, creating an org chart, creating a leadership team, professionalizing this business. It's a real company now. We have 300 employees where, this is a real deal business, and we need to start. It went from mom and pops to, okay, how do I professionalize? And that's when I started to build a leadership team around me. And the path of, you look at it, the path of having 17 direct reports, absolutely having my hands in everything, needing to grow past thinking that I needed to be in everything, right? Like, no one could do it as good as me. You need my help, and blah, blah, blah. All the way to fast forward 4, maybe close to 5 years later, and I'm stepping down as CEO. I'm replacing myself as CEO and stepping out to executive chairman. And for the last 10 months of ownership, while we were in a process to bring the company to market and sell it, I never even went there. I went to a board meeting once a month. I was strategic. I was an advisor to the CEO. And so there was an immense amount of experience and growth.
How do you find a CEO like that? What do you pay that person?
I hired my CEO. I overhired my COO position. I overhired for. And so the man that I hired had impressive experience. He had been in leadership roles, including CEO roles for complicated healthcare businesses in the past. Didn't know the nuances of my industry. I brought him on as my number 2. I spent a year or so with him side by side every day, taught him as much as I possibly could, and developed a succession plan that he would then, once he had the nuance down and the timing was right, that he would fill my seat and that I would step up to executive chairman. And so, but I mean, he came, I think probably the most impressive job on his resume was he was the CEO of like a $2 billion publicly traded dialysis business.
Oh, wow.
And so the one thing that I did do that I would recommend anyone who's growing a business is I created an equity pool, of a management equity pool, structured them as profit interest units, which is an interesting structure to let people to participate in the growth and value creation of the business. And then I gave each one of these executives in this leadership team different sizes of profit interest units and got them all aligned.
So is a profit interest unit kind of like a Class B stock or something in the company?
It's a kind of, here's how to explain it. It is based off the current valuation. And so it gives the person who's receiving it the ability to participate in the upside from the point in which they entered the company. So for instance, if we said, okay, based on revenue, EBITDA, assumed multiple, market conditions, this business is worth $40 million, and I'm gonna give you, Cody, to be my chief marketing officer, one profit interest unit. The problem with that, if I gave it to you in straight stock, that would create a taxable event. And so I'd actually probably be hurting you because you probably don't have the tax to pay for this piece of equity that I'm gonna give you, right? I give you a profit interest unit that has a threshold that says, okay, this is a $40 million business. The threshold for this one is 400 grand. So when we transact, the waterfall at the transaction for you only kicks in after the first 400 grand is met. And so you're not getting paid for value that was created prior to your tenure at the business, but you get to participate in value that was created while you were there. And so if we sell for 100 million and you joined at the $40 million mark, every one PIU is going to be worth, the 400,000 of the water flow is going to come back to me, and then everything after the 400,000 is going to spill to you. So that one PIU would be, in fact, worth, in that scenario, 600,000. And so that's how we structured it.
Got it. That's actually really smart. Alignment equals velocity. I've said that on other podcasts.
Traction.
It's everything. The second
100%.
you get your management team, your leadership team in alignment with you, magic starts happening. And you were smart enough to eventually realize, I can't be in 17 conversations, getting all these reports, doing all these meetings, and trying to be all things to all people, and not burn out.
I've made more fucking mistakes than I have won, but I just never gave up, and I took my losses like a champ. And like at that time, I look back, and you don't know what you don't know until you know it. But dude, I'm burnt out. I'm running ragged. I'm eating like shit. I got fat. I'm stressed out. I'm cranky at home. Are
you making good money at this time?
Yeah, but
What's good money? Like you built a nice little.
Dude, it's hard to quantify looking back because every
Like,
dollar.
are you a millionaire at this point?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Like, take home, bringing in $1 million a year?
Yeah, the company is probably sitting at $5, $6, $7 million of EBITDA a year. But then I also, parallel to all of this, developed residential real estate. I've been a builder for a long time.
Okay.
And so one of the things that I did was I built houses, flipped houses, built condo developments, and constantly had real estate projects going on. And that's how I paid my bills. And so I actually paid my bills outside of the business, never took a salary. And
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't. I didn't until the end when we were going to sell, because I had to normalize, all right, if we're going to have a CEO,
Yeah.
we're going to have to pay that guy something. And so they put me on the books for like
But that's
30
actually
grand.
really brilliant, because I did the opposite. My company would make money and I'd take it all. I treated it like a piggy bank. No, seriously, this is real shit.
Well,
in the beginning, it's not like somebody sat me down and said, all right, Cody, you're gonna set up an LLC, and in this LLC, you're gonna set up a salary, and we're gonna set up 3 bank accounts. You're gonna have your operating account, you're gonna have your tax account, and then you're gonna have your whatever account. Nobody modeled it out for me. So it was like one LLC, one bank account, 3 people with a dream. We make $20,000, and I'm like, all right, here's your 2, here's your 4, and here's my 16.
Yeah.
Let's go back at it.
I let all the money recycle back into I was making cash flow off of being a landlord. I had market rents, and so I was making my debt service coverage and then taking money being the landlord. That helped pay my bills.
All right, so that's important, because remember, the operating company is, your company is helping buy the real estate, but then it's rent, and then it's becoming a tenant of the real estate.
Totally.
You're charging market rents. So even though your mortgage is down here, your market rents are up here, there's a spread that's being left over in this holding company's bank account.
And you have to remember that I started the business at 23 years old with no experience, a high school dropout in 2008. And so for anyone old enough that can remember 2008, there was no banking. You couldn't borrow any money. I mean, it was the middle of the financial crisis and the Great Recession. And so the world was melting as I was starting a business, and I didn't know any different. And so I was just very used to making $1 and, eating off 10 cents and putting 90 cents back into the business. And so high level, what I did, it took a lot longer than some people wanted to take, but I built a business that top line did, give or take, about $50 million in revenue, and I never had any debt.
Brilliant.
I had never had an investor dollar, never had an outside dollar of any.
This is why you were buyable.
100%.
Yeah, this is why you were buyable.
And so, that was by putting the money back in just constantly. And growth is expensive. If your business is growing, it's going to cost a lot of money to grow,
Okay, so let's talk about some of the real estate stuff on the side.
Yeah.
So now you're flipping houses, you're building some things. You were always kind of had a knack for the building side of things. So
Yeah.
that probably real estate
I
came
grew
natural.
up around it, yeah.
Okay. You're buying, probably getting pretty good at buying cheap assets, distressed assets,
Yep.
off-market deals, fixing them up, selling them. I know now you're still doing that. Even after your exit, you're still buying, holding. So do you own a lot of real estate? Are you more on the flipping side of things?
So
What gets you excited in the real estate business?
what I'm doing now is, in real estate, is two different things. One, I've started another operating business, doing the same exact thing, addiction treatment, but in new states. And so we're launching, and we'll be accepting patients in about 2.5 weeks. We'll be live in Columbus, Ohio. And so then I'm buying doing exactly what I did before. And so I'm buying the underlying real estate assets, I'm developing them, and now I'm creating the operating company as the tenant. And so the operating company will be live and generating revenue in 2 weeks. And then the underlying real estate assets I'm developing, I own a ton of potential behavioral healthcare real estates, Ohio, a couple sites in Ohio, Texas, New Jersey, et cetera. And then separate from that, what I did was, after I sold the operating business and had the $115 million exit, I retained all the real estate. And so even though I didn't own the business anymore, I was still the landlord. For anyone that's selling a business, please pay attention to the real estate as you're thinking through a sale. It's much easier to set it up on the front end before you have buyers, and this is how you introduce it to them, than it is later. I negotiated a corporate guarantee with my new buyer. I negotiated a lease extension to 20
Explain what a
years.
corporate guarantee is.
The real estate that I had leased to the operating business was guaranteed by the operating business. I was purchased by a much larger business that bought the company and consolidated it into that company. That company makes a lot more money than the company I sold them. What I did was, at the time of sale and around that, was I renegotiated the leases to include a guarantee of the rent from this giant company.
Right.
And so it increased the credit rating, right?
Yeah.
If you're a buyer, you're like, okay, well, this little business, it was a big business to me, but the one I sold is the guarantor to it. That's one thing. But this national business that's owned by a private equity fund and blah, 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 that's the guarantor. That's a lot safer bet.
So
And
now if I roll
because
in, I want to buy your real estate from you, I see the credit worthiness of this.
it increases the value.
Yeah.
And then the length of the lease was the other point of interest. And so I got the corporate guarantee and I extended the lease. And then I brought a lot of the portfolio to market. I exited that in a couple tranches, still not done. By the time I fully exit out of all of it, I will have divested about $40 million in real estate. Outside of the $115 million transaction, I'm already about 25.5 million of my way through that. I have closings set on other deals that'll probably tip me over 30, and then I'm holding this kind of lesser asset class. I don't like what's happened to cap rates, and so I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet.
You might wait it out or see.
Yeah,
what
it's about $10 million worth of real estate. It's stuff that, it's all multifamily stuff that's used as house. Anyways, I wouldn't mind taking the keys back if I had to from the
Yeah.
tenant. It's low risk, and so whatever. I've done what's called a 1031 exchange so I got out of this commercial single tenant asset class, got a good valuation for it. Everyone was happy. And I did a 1031 exchange process, and we flipped that into almost 600 multifamily and single family units spread across almost 400 in Ohio. I also bought some more commercial real estate with that's outside of those units for behavioral health care purposes, and then a portfolio of 200 single family homes in Columbus, Georgia.
Wow.
And so,
You're cranking, dude.
busy, having fun though, having a blast.
Yeah. So, and I love that. And
Yeah.
I call you. We got a facility under contract in Texas. You were my first call.
Yep,
You know, it's like,
100%.
what am I dealing with here? Right away, you're like, let me connect you with my boy.
Yep.
He handles stuff like this. Let him help you. Like, it was like, it's phenomenal to have good mentors like you in my orbit.
Same.
So I want to really get real for a second, because I dream of a $115 million exit, right? I know one of my companies one day will have a nice exit. What was it like staring at your bank account? You put in all this work. We were talking about this at dinner last night. I want them to hear it. Like, you finally make it, man. It's like winning the lottery of life, right? It's like, I have more money than I know what to do with. You're staring at your bank account. You're like, pfft. And you have this future exit with the real estate. Like, you know you're good. Your
Yep.
family's good. You're good. You can do anything that you want. What do you feel? What happens next? Like, are you on a high? Do you eventually fade out? Like, what is it like?
Dude, I'm on a high. It was a really interesting experience because leading up to it, I didn't know how the fuck I was gonna feel. This was my baby. I got sober and I started this business. It was my life for a long time, dude. Like, I started it was pretty much my entire adult life, right? I started at 23, I sold it at 36. I mean, I had 2 kids during that time. I went through, and so there was this emotional attachment to the business as a lifestyle and all of that. And so that was one component of it. The money was one component of it. I mean, that's enough money as long as you live like a decent lifestyle. Like, you never have to fucking do anything again. I mean, candidly, right? You can live off the dividends of that forever. And, you know, your great grandkids probably will too. And so I didn't know, and I took some time off. I had been on the grind every day, working my face off my entire adult life. And I got a little lost, dude. I really did. I got a little lost in like hanging out and, you know, not doing much and not being productive. And what I learned about myself with that is that I am happiest doing what I do. And so I'm now, after finding my way, back awake at 5 a.m. in the morning, going to bed early, leading teams, building, creating business, doing deals, providing value, helping people. Like, those are the things that, like, I look at my life today, and the assets are cool. We certainly have a ton of fun, and, you know, I'm not taking away from that. I think everyone, if that's your dream to be rich, you fucking should. But
I mean, you did ball out. You got the yacht. You got the private jet. You bought you would roll in and spend 20, 30, 50K shopping on a Tuesday because you're bored.
Yeah, did all of it.
You know, and at some point, the women, the items, the luxury, the stuff, it's like, at some point, you just get numb to it.
You get numb to it, bro. It loses its shine. It's cool for a little bit until it ain't that fucking cool anymore, you know? And it feels shallow, hollow, and empty, and it's just not meaningful, you know? Like, you can get up and go on your boat and go travel and do whatever you're doing.
So listen, guys, by your 50th threesome, living in Miami on your yacht as your PJ skids into your...
I don't know what he's talking about.
You'll get numb to it, all right? Oh, man.
Yeah, you know, and so, I don't know. It was...
Just kidding.
Cody's fine. Yeah,
I'm ready to go.
forever. Yeah.
Load up the PJ.
Yeah, man, it's I've found where I found I'm back and I've found kind of my sweet spot. And I like building, I like creating, I like business, I like operating.
Well, dude, you look good. You sound good.
you.
You're losing weight. You're gaining
Yeah.
muscle. You're back on a regimented routine.
100%.
You're bringing in people like our buddy Wes to,
Yeah.
just kind of like hold you
Wow,
accountable,
man, love
coach
him.
you. Dude, that interview with Wes Watson was fire.
I
That was
bet.
fire. This interview is also fire because it's real, man. People who really have gone through it tell
Yeah.
the best stories. So now the future. How do you feel about the market right now?
Dude, I started in a recession. I started in a much worse economic climate than this is now, and so I personally feel fine. I think a lot of people are going to learn a lot over this next few years, for sure. My advice, a lot of people ask me that question, and I tell them, when you look out in the world, you have to differentiate from an investment and a business thesis, what's a need and what's a want. If you can align yourself with needs, then you're going to be just fine. Those things thrive in a recession. The wants are going to shrink, right? The wants, less people are going to go on vacation. Less people are going to buy stuff they don't need. Less people are going to splurge on this and splurge on that, Like I shouldn't, but I like to poke fun a little bit. I'm like, where's all these fucking NFT guys? You know what I mean? Where the fuck are they, big ballin'? They're not at Live dropping 30 grand on a table anymore, I promise you that.
Yeah.
They're sitting at home crying, looking at their fucking bored apes and whatever the fuck they're doing, And so, when you look at I'm back in healthcare. In a recession, people are gonna have mental health and addiction and alcoholism problems. They do in any economy, but the more the stress, the more the maladaptive behavior to it, and so those problems are going to be exacerbated. I'm in the underlying real estate to that. And then you look at my real estate thesis, I'm in B and C class affordable housing. And so, I'm not
All things that are needed.
Dude, they're all necessities.
And you're
so,
launching your first fund
Launched my first fund, raising capital for that, which is
to go and do more of those things.
to go and do more of those things.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
it's like I know what I know. Now,
Yep.
and I think it's smart. Even though you have a ton of money, you have a ton of money that you're already investing. You want to go further, faster, so you're going to raise more capital, get more aggressive.
100%.
You see the opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
What? You got 2 kids, right? How old are they?
11 years old and 14 months.
Okay, so Reset and an 11-year-old. What are you gonna teach them about money? Because I think about this a lot with my kids. Walking into money,
It's hard.
entitlement. Like we're hustlers. That was born out of the environment. That was born out of looking around, saying, "I want more than this. Like this is crazy. Like my parents never gave me money for anything.
Yeah.
I always had to create it. Always had to hustle. Always had to figure things out. And so, how do you take somebody that now you might not be able to see this, but we're sitting in a $20+ million house on an island in the middle of Miami. There's luxury cars all over the damn place out front. I'm staring at the bay right now. There are 100 mega yachts floating by all right now, and it's like I'm a little kid. I'm 11 years old. This is normal?
I know.
Dad's PJ is normal? Like, no. Like, how do you teach them the value of money, working hard, and transfer that to them? Like, how do you think about that?
It's honestly been something that's been front and center of my mind for a long time. And so I tell my son candidly, like, you don't have shit. Like, my trust and estate plan, which of course when I die, I hope to leave, not spend this all before I'm gone. And so both of my sons will receive something meaningful. I have rules built into that if they are not productively working 40 hours a week, they get nothing. There will be no trust fund babies around here. You will be productive, you will work. I have always instilled in them, in my older one, my younger one, the values of hard work, I take him along with me on a lot of things. Like that was one of the things my dad did for me, which I'm eternally grateful for, was, I spent time riding in the front seat of his truck, going to the estimates, watching him write them up, watching him do the sales pitch to get the job. Yeah, like I was front row to all of that. And so my son's been front row his entire life to all of this. He knows about the hard work. And he also knows that, like, your dad might be rich, you're not. You don't have shit. Let's get real clear on that. You know what I mean? Like, you're not entitled to all this. And if you grow up and you're a fucking loser and you're entitled and you think that I or anyone owes you shit, you're getting nothing. Literally nothing. And it's just through constant conversation, and I just have always kept it real with him, and I still do. And so he's actually...
Like, are you going to say you got 2 sons. Are you going to force them to sign prenups?
Yeah.
If they get married?
For sure.
Yeah, me too.
100%.
My son, yeah. And, I love that you are...
And he could blame me for it.
Yeah.
He'd be like, I don't know, my old man, the trust,
It's
whatever.
part of the trust. I can't do anything about it.
That's right.
Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
And I would even consider building in there that you random drug tests.
It's already in there.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, my trust actually
I love that.
requires drug testing. He has to be clean and sober.
I tell my daughter and my son, look, you're never gonna be homeless. I will guarantee that. But you ain't living like me unless you earn it.
Yep.
That's for sure. And I love bringing my son around with me.
Yeah, totally.
To my projects and all that stuff. And he's getting it now.
Yep.
We talk about money and the value of money and the importance of money. It is part of our routines when we talk. Leadership, success, money, obligation, servitude,
Yep.
what entitlement means. There's been times where he stole money from me. And if anybody watches me on social, like, I put him through the frickin' ringer. It's like, oh, you're going to daddy boot camp now. Like, because now kids with games, right? They'll buy gems and skins and all kinds of shit in their games.
Yeah.
And so we're always, like, if anything happens where he'll blow through a few $100, and then I find out about it, it's like, oh, you're going to 3 months of daddy boot camp and you're going to work your ass off for that. I hope you enjoyed that money, because you are about to pay me back 10 times that amount through physical labor.
It's important.
What would you, to kind of end this strong, man? And you've shared a lot of really cool stuff. What would you say to some entrepreneur listening to this podcast or watching this right now? What advice would you give somebody?
Just never give up. A lot of the level of success that you'll achieve is defined by your ability to manage stress, resiliency, overcome adversity. It's meant to be fucking hard. Like, it's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. There is no fast track, and it's probably going to take longer than you think it's going to. But you just stick to the day-to-day, structure, how you structure your day, your daily disciplines, and the things that you pay attention to and focus on is what will come into fruition. And by that I mean, like, I think there's a lot of value in having a morning discipline. I think there's a lot of value in having mentorship. I think there's a lot of value in prioritizing self-education. You nailed it earlier when you were like, why doesn't school teach you any of this shit? It doesn't. Unless you're going for an MBA at Harvard, like, it doesn't. And you know what? Most of those MBA guys from Harvard fucking work for guys like me and you. And so who taught ourselves this shit, And so just don't give up, and hard work, and be prepared for any and every problem, because it's all going to happen,
I love that. Toughen up. Don't be a little bitch.
Yeah,
Don't
be a little
That's the summation
bitch.
of that conversation. Don't be a
Yeah.
little bitch, and don't quit. I love
Yeah, well,
that.
mental toughness.
I know.
I mean, people, it's underrated, especially in today's societal environment. That's, talking about mental toughness in a lot of areas of society is not popular. But if this is the path you want, fuck, you're gonna need it. I've been gossiped about, stolen from, backstabbed, betrayed. I've had my heart broken by employees I loved. I've had national media crises. I've had, dude, at one point, I had a private equity deal queued up in 2019. And 9 days before I was getting a check for $40 million, a top executive in my company was exposed for being a DEA informant because he had gotten busted in a relapse trafficking drugs. And then fast forward to December 21, I was supposed to sell at a $50 million valuation, 80%, $40 million, take on a private equity partner, which probably would have sucked. And I end up getting a complete exit not that long later for,
blessings.
Almost 3 times the money.
Blessings,
That's what I'm saying. Like,
lessons.
Dude, I thought I was dead. And you just can't give up. And, have the humility to do the work, any and all of the work.
I love that you just put the suit back on. You're like, this isn't going to stop
Let's
me.
go.
I've been through worse. Let's go.
Yeah.
I love that.
I remember walking into emergency rooms right after that incident, and I had a suit on, I had my brochures, and the nurses in the behavioral health care unit of the hospital are like, aren't you Eric Spofford? I was like, yeah. She's like, aren't you in the news this week for some crazy shit? I'm like, listen, I brought you donuts. What's up? You know what I mean? Like, I got some brochures.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
God, what a strong way to end this, man.
Yeah, man.
Just on a riff that motivates the heck out of you.
Wild.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
I love getting to know you, man. I'm grateful that you're in my orbit and a mentor
Totally.
of mine when
Same.
it comes to some of the
That's
stuff.
mutual.
I see the potential in the things that you're doing. I'm definitely interested in investing in the fund. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
At Eric Spofford on Instagram is the easiest. That's where I'm most active.
Yep, and you're putting out content every single day. A lot of
Getting more busy with that too.
I like it.
Stepping it up.
We need more Eric Spofford in our lives on social media, so keep doing that.
Yeah,
and for everybody watching this, make sure you go follow him. And make sure you give this podcast a freaking 5-star review. If you're getting some value out of these things.
You better get on there and give my guy a fucking 5-star review.
There we go. That's a great way to end. Until next time, we're out of here. Take care. Comb your hair. Peace.
Peace.
Hey, thanks for being a subscriber of the Clever Investor Show. As a thank you gift, we wanted to give you something that we know is going to help you get started as a creative real estate investor. It's our Real Estate Success Kit, and it's completely free. Just go to www.reisuccesskit.com to customize your kit, but essentially it's a collection of 15 training tools designed to help you get results quickly as a creative real estate investor. From systems to lead generation to finding cash buyers to creative ways to close deals and get paid. Your free REI Success Kit is just a few clicks away. Once again, the website's www.reisuccesskit.com.